Hello and welcome back to another episode of Finance Agents Live. This is episode number 59, and we are happy to be here with you. I'm Tim MC. I'm here with Rhoda Pflum, and we're going to be discussing. I say it differently every time. It's more fun.
You forget my name.
And we're going to be here.
4 years.
Yeah, I just met her last week. We're going to be here discussing. We're making stupid jokes, but a serious issue actually. We just had a big, ugly hurricane again, Hurricane Florence. And because of that, we've been getting a lot of people inquiring at FEMAloans.org, which is our partner that helps people get disaster recovery loans from the SBA. So today we're going to be talking about that. We're getting a lot of questions about it. We're going to go through what the program is, cover it, just so you understand what it is and how we help people, and you understand what options are available for people in that situation. But that's it. So we actually started this product last year for the horrible back-to-back Harvey and Irma, right?
And Maria.
And then Maria, right? So last year was an ugly year for hurricanes. This year, well, this is a bad one. At least there's only one so far. Knock on wood, if there's wood to knock on. But, all right, let's jump into this. Let's just start. If somebody's watching this and they don't know what FEMAloans.org is, or the name of the nonprofit is Federal Aid Assistance, why don't you tell people what it is and what people get with that? Go.
Our partner, Federal Aid Assistance, is an organization that helps people apply and get these disaster loans through the SBA. And the area has to be a disaster area as designated. And there's a website coming up that we'll direct you to. We help them get walk them through the loan process and help them get funding for their business or personal loans that were impacted by the disaster.
Okay, here's a question. If it's SBA loans, why does it say FEMAloans.org for the URL?
I didn't pick the URL, so that's a question for you.
All right, everybody has to go through FEMA. You can't go directly to the SBA to apply for one of these loans. First, you have to apply for and be denied for a grant from FEMA. Okay, that's great. I'd rather get a grant anyway than a loan, but that's the process. So people are looking for federal assistance from FEMA, the Federal Emergency, whatever the heck FEMA stands. What's FEMA stand for? Pop quiz.
Federal Emergency
Management Association?
Doubt it.
That's something like that.
Doubt it.
Anyway, you got to go through FEMA to get to the SBA. FEMA sort of coordinates
Darren's
it.
gonna answer
And then
for
the
us.
actual loan that we are helping people, or our nonprofit is helping people get, is from the SBA. Darren?
Federal Emergency Management Agency.
Oh, so close. We're used to businesses, not the. All right. So FEMAloans.org. Go for it. Go ahead.
So in order to do that, you have to go to disasterassistance.gov and go through the process there, and they'll give you a number. You have to have that as part of the SBA application process. And so that's how they link, is that you have to be declined for this or FEMA grant, and then if you don't qualify for that, then you go through the loan process.
Okay.
You're thinking SBA, personal loan. What's
Right.
that?
So what it is, if you end up being a client or a customer of Federal Aid Assistance, which you can find at FEMAloans.org, what they are going to do is help you get a low-interest SBA loan to help with things related to the disaster. You got to be in a disaster area. It's a federally recognized disaster area. We'll show you where to go to verify you're in an area. And you can get a loan as low as 1.875% interest. So really low. I mean, that's obviously crazy low. So, and you can get it for 3 different general scenarios, and we'll go over this in a little more detail later. But you could be a business owner whose business has been affected, i.e., I don't have any customers because everybody got washed away in a flood. Or you could be a homeowner whose property has been damaged and the loan can cover stuff not covered by your insurance. Or you can even be a renter. You could be a renter who had a bunch of personal property that was damaged that's not covered by insurance. Those are the 3 general categories where you can get a super low interest loan in order to help with those damages. How long is the repayment period on these loans?
It's 15 to 30 years, so there will be a range. And I want to clarify.
Long time.
Yeah, it's a long time. You can also qualify if you are a landlord and you have rental properties that were damaged. So it's not just the one building that you're occupying as a business owner, or it's not just your personal residence. If you have some rental properties, you can do it. It doesn't cover spec homes or speculative loans like a traditional SBA.
As long as it's not covered by insurance. So if you have insurance that covers stuff, great. They're going to cover the extra. They can cover your deductible and all sorts of other things. So average loan size that we see is in the 100 to 150,000 range. So these are real loans. We can get a lot of money and a lot of help. But they always come on a deadline. So what are the deadlines related to Hurricane Florence?
You have to apply within 60 days of the disaster, and so that's right now, I believe it's still in the window of it. Like for, let's say, the volcano in Hawaii, it's still ongoing. It's going to be when the end of that disaster is declared. You have a 60-day window. I don't think they've announced an end of Florence yet, have they?
No. So what happens is when they initially declare a federal disaster, they issue a notice. We might actually show you one later on. I'm not sure if we have it available. They'll declare it a disaster and start date. And you have 60 days to apply. It doesn't mean you're going to get the money in 60 days. It could take 6 months to a year. It just means you have to apply within that window. Now, for something like Florence, where the damage is ongoing, or the volcano, they'll keep issuing addendum, which extends the deadline. So, but if they don't issue an addendum, you can't just assume, it's still flooding in my area. No, you want to look at the website. I think we're going to show you exactly where to look, and you can see the exact dates. Right now we have 2 exact dates. The published dates were right in front of me. Here you go. Florence was initially announced on September 17th, and the current deadline is November 18th, I believe. November 18th is the current deadline. If the flooding continues, they'll issue addendum. In fact, there's already been 1 addendum already, and there could be more for as long as they decide to keep issuing them.
This is, let's say, take for example, there was a disaster in Colorado, Westminster apartment fire. Even something like that can qualify for this disaster, and that's a very specific date with a very specific deadline. It's important to point out that it's important to apply. It's not that you have to accept the money within the 60 days, but at least keep your options open for you, because if you don't apply, you know the answer. And so like, let's say you don't think that the burden is going to be so onerous, and you think I can do it, and then let's say 6 months down the road you realize the customers aren't coming back, business isn't picking up, it's just too hard, it's going to be too late. So it's really important to get your application in within these 60 days.
Right. If you are affected by this disaster, not to be negative, I just want to be realistic, you're probably going to be feeling the effects for longer than you're initially expecting. So at least apply. We've seen it where they can issue an offer to somebody and you can say, you know what, wait a little bit because maybe you don't want to take on the extra debt. With that said, at 1.875% interest, that's less than inflation. It's, depending on how you look at it, free money because you're borrowing the money and you're paying it back less than the cost of inflation over the years. So you might as well take it if it's eligible. All right, so I believe Darren's pulling up onto the screen a couple pages. Yeah, so I'll explain what they are. Darren's pointing at them. So first is the page where you can go see if you're in a qualifying area. So if you're looking at this right now, I believe Darren's probably showing you. At the very top one says Hurricane Florence. If you were to click on it, it would give you the next page that Darren's going to pull up. Swipe over. And it would show this page, and it shows the effective date, the incident period. I'm not seeing the deadline on there right now, but if you opened the disaster declaration below, it would show you that. But before you do that, it shows the counties. So it shows you specifically what areas are. All the counties are listed where you qualify. That's for this one individual disaster. You may have noticed on that other page, there's a lot of different disasters. And I just wanted to say one thing. Different disasters have different qualifications. So just because it's listed there doesn't necessarily mean you qualify for the same thing. Sometimes it's going to be like this one, a major disaster where it covers business losses, property owner losses, and renter property losses. Some of them, they're not going to cover the same stuff. So don't worry about figuring it out. If you work with us, we'll help you figure that out. But right there you see all the areas. I don't know if Darren's going to open the actual document. The document itself is ugly. Yeah, I saw you had it there. It downloaded. Darren, go back. Go back, Darren. Oh, there it is. All right. Yep, that's it. All right, ugly page, but you can see on here the date, the physical loan application deadline. It was November 13. That's the current one. And then the dates of the incident. Nothing super exciting to look at here. But the page that you got this from, you want to watch it because they'll continue to issue extended deadlines, assuming the effect is like with Harvey and Irma, they extended them for a long time. And we saw people still getting financing up to a year later. All right, so let's say you come on and you want our help with this process, which is a great idea because if you mess something up, you could lose out on a $100,000 loan and 1.875% interest. That's a big loss, right? So the steps for when somebody what are some of the steps? If somebody signs up for the program, what happens?
Well, first they're going to have a call with a funding consultant to discuss the program with a client just to verify that they're in an approved area. And then they're going to sign an engagement agreement with us with a down payment. And then they'll have an underwriting call and just to verify their eligibility and go over the documents that we need and discuss any hardships or insurance coverage that they have.
Okay. So first we're going to verify they're in a qualifying area. Then we'll verify that they understand what's happening. One of the important things is this nonprofit cannot guarantee funding, right? This is not FEMA. This is not the SBA. Our company is a company that helps you with them, so we can't force them to do anything or guarantee anything. All we can do is help you on a best effort basis, which is what we do. We help out everybody we can. Go through the process. The process can be fast or it can be really slow. When you have a big event like this, you have a lot of people coming in at a time, it's going to slow things down. And also, your situation can go through a lot of ups and downs. We have one specific client that we worked with in the past we're going to talk about where there's different things that happened which extended the process. And that's when we really shine because we can help you find workarounds for that. But the general steps is first you got to apply for FEMA. Like I said, you need to be denied for a grant. And then we help you with the SBA application. And the steps that follow after that depend on if it's business, you're a renter, or you're a property owner, and all the other stuff that comes up after that. All right, so maybe we want to talk about the client that we discussed. We have one client named Milton who we helped last time. Why don't we talk about that process a little bit, Rhoda?
Yeah, so he got on board. He was in Houston and was feeling more of the economic impact from his company because his property itself wasn't damaged, but again, his customers were damaged. They were slow to order. He had a food company, and so his customers weren't ordering as much, and they were slow to pay. So those slow to pays were impacting him, and he was having a hard time keeping up paying his suppliers as well. So
yeah, he's a distributor to restaurants, and
Right.
the restaurants stopped buying stuff or slowed down or stopped paying quickly, and it affected his business for a long time.
Right, and so he was working through that, trying to stay on top of his bills as well. So you can see it's kind of really has a bigger ripple effect than I think people realize. So just to reiterate, get your application in. If you don't take the funding, you still can think about it for a little bit. You just got to get your application in. So this is where he was. He was making the deadline. And
one thing I want to point out, just to make sure you understand what we mean by an affected business. His monthly revenue had historically been about $500,000 a month, and it dropped to about $400,000 a month. He did not have water damage. He didn't have trucks that were damaged. He had an affected business, and he was able to apply for and get an SBA loan to help with the economic impact without having direct water damage. That's a really important point. If you have less business, and that's relatively easy to demonstrate with any local or regional business, then you can get help and a low-interest loan for the government.
Right. And so one of the things that we really helped him with is that it was an SBA loan, so they did want to put a lien on his properties, but one of the properties that he was going to use was up for sale. And so I was, part of it is, the SBA, they hire a bunch of people to help process these files, and not all of them know everything and all of the nuances of an SBA like maybe we do. And so, working through them saying, can you put a lien on the property? They didn't want to do it because it was up for sale, and saying, well, if it sells, just hold the money in an escrow account, and working through the SBA with that process, kind of trying to find solutions for it so that he could move forward with the funding and the SBA could get the loans dispersed.
Right. Our experience with traditional SBA lending is what helps us help these people in these disaster situations, because it's a disaster situation, but they still have a lot of the same SBA rules. It's just a heck of a lot easier than the normal process. All right? So let's say you want to come on and become a client. There's a checklist of 6 things that you have to give the correct answer to, and it's right on the first page of our agreement. Let's go through those with you right now so you know what they are and why they're there, and then you can know right away, this is something I'm not going to qualify for, and you don't have to waste your time working with us. What are the requirements that everybody has to pass?
First, you can't be delinquent on your federal taxes. You can be in a payment plan, but you can't be delinquent. You can't currently be delinquent on government-mandated child support. You can't be in the process of filing bankruptcy. You can't be in foreclosure. You can't have ever defaulted on a government-backed loan, and that includes student loans. And then you can't, are those the same?
Yeah, it looks like it. So the number one disqualifier that we've seen is people who had problems with government-backed student loans at some point. If you have a government student loan, you may not realize it's a government loan. You have your regular student loans, those are probably backed by the government. And so that's a problem, right? That's going to be a hard hurdle for us to overcome. If you had some problems, but now you're in good standing, that's better. But that's a frequent issue that we have to deal with. If you defaulted on an SBA loan in the past, forget it. You're not getting one. If you're, defaulting on your taxes, basically it's government stuff. Have you already had problems with the government? They're not going to want to lend you money again. But you could have all sorts of problems with other lenders. Just don't have messed up with the government in the past, and that includes child support. All right, so there's at the bottom there's a section where they're going to give you information about their situation. There's 3 situations. What are those 3 situations that we help people with?
We can help them with their personal property, and that's up to, I think, $200,000. If they are a renter, we can help them with personal property up to, I think it's about $40,000, and then we can help businesses up to $2 million, and that includes both real estate and working capital combined loan for $2 million.
Right. Darren is flipping all over the place with the agreement. I don't know why. We don't need to go in the whole agreement. I just wanted to show that first page. So when you fill in the form, you're going to tell us, are you a business owner, are you a property owner, or are you a renter, and describe the situation. So if you answered correctly those 6 questions, and you fill in the scenario, and then sign the agreement basically says that federal aid assistance is going to help you through the process. There's an initial commitment fee of $500 that you pay to us. I know you may be thinking, hey, I need help. Why am I paying money? And that's because who else is going to pay for it, right? The government isn't paying us to do this. Somebody needs to pay for the help. But on the other side of it, the upside is substantial. So $500 to be able to get help getting a $500,000 loan, if it's possible, is definitely worth the money. We think it's the minimum in order to keep the operation running and allow us to help in these emergency situations. We may have to bring on staff in order to ramp up and help people, just like the SBA is doing. So that is that. That's how the agreement works. You can work with any one of our member offices, or you can go to FEMAloans.org and fill in the form there directly, and somebody will reach out to you. They'll ask you the questions. If you qualify, they send it out, and we can get you started right away. Remember, it's really important you apply before the deadline, even if the funding may not happen for 6 months. We'll obviously help you get it done as quickly as possible, but there's only so fast. It's the government. You know what I mean? They're going to do what they're going to do. Let's talk about some of the documents that are going to be required for somebody who signs up. Remember, you do not have to give this stuff until after you've signed up. But after you signed up, some of the things that we'll be asking for will be...
We're going to need business information, and it's important to know that you have to have been in business at the time of the disaster. Can't be a mom and pop.
You can't start a business and
then say,
get a loan for it?
I was trying to start my business, and then the disaster came, and then I can't start my business. So you have to be in business at the time of the disaster, and that's not a mom and pop business.
When you say mom and pop business, I mean, if you own a liquor store and you're a mom and pop, what do you mean by mom and pop?
Excuse me, hobby business. Thank you.
Hobby business.
Like a hobby business with not really a lot of revenue. And I don't know the exact minimum qualification. Do you know definition technical of hobby business?
I believe a hobby business is a business that's been losing money for multiple years. And if you file a loss on your tax return 3 years in a row, the government may qualify you as a hobby because clearly you're not making money. And but on the short term, I don't know how many years it needs to hit.
Anyway, okay, so hobby business, you have to be a business, a small business. So 2 years business tax returns, year-to-date P&L, balance sheet, and business debt schedule. And I also want to point out, you can't refinance debt with this loan. That doesn't qualify. It has to just be injury from the disaster itself, and then
Right.
1 year
If
personal
you're,
returns.
If you're a property owner, you don't need business tax returns or a P&L or business debt schedule. This is only if you have a business.
Mm-hmm.
If you just own a piece of property, then you're just going to have you'll fill out our regular information form, and we'll need information related to the property itself.
And then
for
1 year.
personal property, for renters, you may have to provide verification that you actually owned these things, which might be receipts. And I know that may be real tough. If your house just got flooded, it is what it is. They're going to want some sort of verification that you actually had those 24 Mac computers that were in the room that got flooded away. Otherwise, there's no way they're going to compensate you for those. All right, so after the documents required, there's a 3-step process. I love the government's 3-step process,
Multi-step.
which really has 5, but the government calls it a 3-step process. So what's their 5-step, 3-step process?
You have to go to disasterassistance.gov and register, and then after that, if you do not qualify for the FEMA grant, we can get you into the loan program, and we're going to apply for a loan and verify your eligibility. Then a loan processing decision will be made, and then the loan closed and funds dispersed.
Now, a grant is not going to be that big, so you could get approved for a grant and still end up getting a loan because they're going to be different. The grants tend to be a lot smaller, and if you're sitting there trying to make notes, what was I supposed to do? Don't worry. Sign up with us. We could walk you through the steps. It's easy enough for us to tell you where to go once you've come in, and we'll make sure that you do everything correctly. So that's the 3-step, 5-step process. That's pretty much the thing that I wanted to cover. Yeah?
I just want to tell people, we get a lot more into detail. We have 2 other YouTube shows, one with Richard he's a public information officer with the SBA. I would recommend you go back and watch that. I don't remember what
There were
show
some
it
of
was.
our first shows
Yeah,
that
it
we
was
did.
some of our first
when we
shows.
launched Finance Agents Live, we started when the hurricanes happened because we really wanted to start getting that information out. We interviewed people from the SBA. Go watch those. You'll learn a lot about the process itself. We talked to an underwriter who worked at one of the disaster centers for years, who was one of our agents who works with us. So you get a lot of good information. But if you just want to get help, then go to FEMAloans.org, fill in the form, and someone will contact you as soon as we can. We have a lot of leads coming, or a lot of prospects coming in. A lot of people need help right now. And so we'll get you as soon as we can. So be patient. We will contact you.
So those were videos number 5 and 6.
Okay, Finance Agents Live number 5 and 6. I even think there might be another one back there. Feel free to go check it out, and you'll learn a lot. Otherwise, fill in the form.
Excuse me, 5, 6, 7, 8.
5, 6, 7, and 8. See? Fun
I
stuff.
did.
One of those was interviewing a member office who was in the area. We talked to a factoring company that was in the affected area, which wouldn't necessarily apply. 2 different people from the SBA, and then we talked to a member office who was in the area who gave us information. So definitely 2 of those qualify, or would be giving you information about this. So that's really it for our planned show here. If anybody has any questions, comments, anything, feel free to throw it into the box. Besides that, we need about 30 seconds of filler to see if somebody asks a question.
We actually do have a question.
Oh, we got some questions. All right,
This
awesome.
is from Karash. Is commercial property included in this?
100%, definitely.
Absolutely.
Max loan is $2 million, but you could do a lot with a couple $1 million bucks. So, is that the question?
Yeah, if you're a
That's
landlord and
the
you
question.
have some properties that were damaged, you can do that. It does not qualify for speculative properties if you were building spec homes.
Now let me go into something else while we're waiting to see if it comes on. Obviously, we have a lot of other different funding programs that we have here, right? So if you're listening to this and you want money and you have good credit, we can get you credit lines, right? If you have real estate, you maybe not even affected, maybe you're just in the area and you wouldn't qualify for the SBA loan, we can get you private money loans in the area, right? We can help you do fix and flips in the area after the floods recede. There's going to be a great opportunity for fix and flip for people that abandon properties. If that happens, hopefully not, but we see it happen a lot. Getting a regular SBA loan in the region wouldn't make sense. If you can qualify for this, we do this first. But obviously we help with SBA loans, we help with retirement rollovers, short-term working capital loans. There's a lot of other types of financing. So when you come in, we will obviously look at the cheapest options first, grant, then loan, but we will also review you for other options and let you know everything that's available in case we need to do a blended option to help you out. Anything else, Darren? All right, good. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up for the day. Thanks, everybody, for coming on. We hope you weren't affected by the disaster. If you were, we really look forward to helping you. And we'll see you next week. We look forward to doing a lot more fundings together. If you're new to the show, subscribe so you can see her more.
It's still true. It's really true.
All right, we're out of here. Bye. See you next week.